The other day, I met a bear up in the woods, oh, way up there. I know you're singing it along with me. Hey, happy Thursday! And welcome once again to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. And I am, in fact, Dave Rush. That hasn't changed in more years than I care to fess up. What a week! What a busy week. So busy that I didn't have a show idea until 1 o'clock this afternoon. And so I busted butt and put a show together. It's going to be an okay show. It won't be the greatest one we've ever done, but it'll be good. So we are here because we like tech. We get together every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, where I am, somewhere in the outskirts of Houston, Texas. And we're here to talk about anything and everything technical. We obviously have kind of a bend toward IT and computers and securities and things like that. And in fact, today, excuse me, hey, you made it on time, Jason. And hello, Patricia. And hello to Tulawit. You know, if you were here live, I see you watching on the archives right now. If you were here live, I would say hello to you. So next Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, be here. Because we talk about anything and we want you to participate that. I know you can only type right now. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could put some kind of program together where we had 500 people round tabling? Well, that would be tough to manage, but I would go for it in a heartbeat. Anyway, so we talk about anything from electric cars to electric guitars and cyber to fiber, and we're not afraid to talk about social topics and politics. Wow, politics has been so much in the news all week, I can't even pronounce it. I've been talking about it so much. If you are not watching live, as I sit here, it is Thursday, January 11th of 2024. Excuse me. Yeah, I know. I like that too. It just came to me, Tulawit. It's like those signs for a new subdivision or neighborhood or whatever that said, you know, if you lived here, you'd already be home right now. Today, being January 11th, is noteworthy for the following reasons. It is National Milk Day. Go out and celebrate with a glass of milk. I might have. It's not that cold here. It's going to get cold over the weekend, and a real cold blast for us on Monday. So hot chocolate. It is also, along those same lines, National Hot Toddy Day. I've never had a hot toddy. I don't even know what's in it. I didn't look it up. From the geopolitical spectrum, it is National Arkansas Day. Arkansas was the 25th state to enter into the Union on January 11th of 1836, and its pronunciation was not finally and legally settled until 45 years later, when it became Arkansas. There were people calling it Arkansas and people calling it Arkansas all throughout, and their state legislature finally settled on Arkansas. And I did some reading about that today. The short version is indigenous tribe, the Kansa, who lived in and around what is now Kansas. And this was apparently a Frenchification of that name. And there's a lot of other offshoots and sub-explanations to it. But either way, hey, if you're keeping count, I haven't done this in a while, so we'll start it up again every couple of weeks. This is show number 43. There were more than that, but they were so bad that I deleted them because it was the right thing to do. Why am I in the corner? Sorry, I was experimenting with setups and I left it in there for the whole thing. So, okay, well, there we are. I guess I'll leave that up there for the moment then. We have a Discord server. And if you would like to join it, we would like you to join it. It's small but ever growing. Yeah, there it is. Put that right there. And I have an invitation to our Discord server for you to join us. It's free. come on, we got a lot of different areas of tech in there, from computers to space. I'm going to add a new one in the next 24 hours, 3D printing. And why, you ask? I have an answer for that, and I am not prepared to give it. But it'll be cool. There is madness to my method, as I'm sure you know. All right, enough of that nonsense. I was so excited about all the other things that I did and didn't do already. We'll have to get those fixed. I'm just no good at this. If for some insane reason you would like to contact me, there are lots and lots of different ways to it. You can catch me on my Discord server. It's on every waking moment of my life, along with some of the other servers that you may associate with me. They're all running at the same time, so you can catch me there. Here's a couple email addresses that are valid. They ping me on my phone all the time, so if you want to talk to me by email, you can catch me DRush TX. I'm Dave Rush in Texas at ADRAMADA.com. There's no N. And DRushTX at Yahoo. And I welcome you to contact me for whatever reason you so choose. You know, I foolishly say that I get so much more spam week after week after week after week after. And maybe I shouldn't do that. You know what this is? I know that if you posted a guess right now, I know what your guess would be. It's wrong. And I am so sorry and horrified to say that. As some of you know, I have been in and out of the dental chair and the oral surgeon chair a lot in the last year, and I got another year or two to go. That I'm shooting for Hollywood white smiles, and so after my cleaning yesterday, I had nice pearly whites again, or at least they're not as pearly dark. The dentist came in. You know, usually I just go in and see my dental hygienist, and I hate when they try to talk to you. You can give them thumbs up, thumbs down, or a grunt. But, you know, it's like waiters at a table. They wait till you shovel in a mouthful and say, "How's everything, sir?" And you guys are... So, anyways, dentist only visits me once a year. And otherwise, everything is the dental hygienist. And so we got to talking, and she said, "Well, any issues?" And I said, "Yeah, this dark one here is, you know, what are we going to do about that?" And she said, "What dark one?" And they held up a mirror in front of my face, and one that was beginning to get a little dark is just as pretty and porcelain as everything else. And I said, okay, well, that's good news. It's obviously externally cleanable. There was a point to all of this. Anyway, what happens in the end is the next thing that we're going to do is order my new pool. That's really what it all comes down to. I am giving so much money from myself and from my insurance company to both the oral surgeon and to my dentist for the next couple of years. I damn well better look like... I don't know. Who's... who was the teeth on Chips? Eric Estrada. I better look like Eric Estrada from The Mustache Down in the next 1 to 2 years. All right, what do we got going on? Today's show is called Pimox. Pimox, if we were to put it in a nutshell, is a virtual machine hypervisor, type 2. And it's pretty specialized. It is a fork of Proxmox. Very popular, very valuable, very useful, important hypervisor, but it has never been, by the original developers, modified to work on a Raspberry Pi. But wonderful, great work from volunteers and developers have ported it, and it does work on the Raspberry Pi. It's getting better and better. It's not perfect, but it's good. So we're going to do Pimox today. It's going to be a two-part show. Today, I'm going to go through the steps of installation. We're not going to install it, because if we were, we would start the project now. Oh yeah, back to this thing. I remember my train of thought. Keep this in hand. So this week we're going to install it. We're going to go through the steps. We're not going to do the full install because when you hit the big button that says, okay, start installing, 30 to 40 minutes later, it'll be done. And that's just too time consuming. So I'm going to walk you through the last steps up until the big enter key. It's very quick. Then I will do that tonight and let it finish installing. And then I'll experiment this week installing an instance of some operating system within the virtual machine, and we will do that as our project next week. Anyway, so I said, what are we going to do about this dark tooth? She said, well, it's not dark anymore. It's been cleaned. You're lovely and gorgeous. And I said, well, what made it dark? She said, well, tell me, do you smoke cigars? I do not. Do you smoke? No. What do you drink? Cup of tea every day. Super stain. Cup of coffee every couple of days. So I am forbidden. My drug of choice, caffeine. I'll find a way. I'll mainline that stuff somehow. This is ice water. It isn't. I'm probably not supposed to have cold things or hot things either, but got to have a vice, right? So, fine. No more iced tea for Dave. That is the font at which I worship. So what to do? Last hydrochloric, you bet. It feels like it compared to my missing lovely drink. Today was the first day. Yesterday I was at the dentist, and I came home and said, I'm not making tea for both of us in the morning. And what? So I made a cup of tea for the missus, and I watched it and wafted it. Got a little nice scent. Hey, we are in the midst of the end of football season. College ball is over. For me, a very disappointing end. So I'm not going to talk about it. It just didn't go the way it should have, could have, should have, would have. NFL, National Football League. I know some of you who are international, close your ears for the next 45 seconds. My beloved Browns have made the playoffs. Can't imagine, given who's playing and how they played, how they're there, but there they are. They will be playing this Saturday here in Houston against the local home team, who I like, but I don't love like my Browns, the Houston Texans. So I would like to go to that game. If anybody got cheap tickets to the Browns-Texans game in Houston, a massive number of NFL coach departures compared to the last couple of years for end of season. Falcons, the Buffalo Bills, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers, no longer San Diego, the Tennessee Titans lost Mike Vrabel, the Washington Commanders, I can't even remember their old name anymore. Ron Rivera's gone. Bill Belichick handed in his paperwork yesterday. Pete Carroll of the Seahawks. So I'm watching the NFL track. I love NFL. Okay, that's my sport. So I'm watching the NFL activities trackers every day. Who gets fired and who doesn't get fired. And when you are an NFL team and you want to interview an NFL staff member for a position, you have to ask permission from the league. They say yes, but it's part of making it all public. And so just before the show, 2 minutes before the show, I finished checking out. Nobody from the Browns organization has been asked to be interviewed for a head coach position, and with good reason. Hey, well, let's see who's here, what the world's talking about, and then we will do tech news. I'm going to have 5 tech news stories today. So, as ever and always, Tullowit in number 1, 3 hours before showtime, and then another check-in half an hour before showtime. The 3 hours, I know why. I didn't get around to setting up an upcoming show until about 3 hours before showtime. I was working all day, since 1 o'clock anyways, on prepping a show, and then as part of prep, I probably ought to set up YouTube, so there it goes. And then Patricia pops in with a greeting to all nerds. She is Patricia Grace, Patricia Manussi, Patricia. I can keep track of it all. And Jason Helms made it on time. That's not a live share. Take another sip. Might help me remember what I forgot. Oh, there was a day. You are indeed a creature of habit. All right. Well, let's do some stuff here then. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So this is last week's show. This is just a refresher, just in case you missed it. And this is the first time you've ever seen ADRAMADA, and you're thinking, would I be interested in seeing more of this? And the answer is, of course you should. Last week's show, we talked about XaaS, X as a service, where X could mean anything. Everybody knows, hopefully by now, the big three, platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, but there are zillions and zillions and zillions of others, a whole alphabet soup full of them. And so we went over 30 or 35 or 40 of the most common ones that aren't those big three. This week we are, as mentioned earlier, doing Pimox. The pi, and by the way, it's not a capital M. It's all lowercase. So somebody got creative in their slide creation here that I just stole willy-nilly. I apologize if somebody claims the right to this graphic and wants it taken down. You let me know and I will pull it. And otherwise, I honor you for having created it. It's lovely. And it's more than proof of concept. This is an older slide. So that's what we're doing today. An AI, the headline was very misleading. Under simulated circumstances, it didn't actually do this for real in real life. But they took an AI and made it a trader on the, not traitor, trader on the stock market. And, you know, do trades, make me money. And then they put it under stress. First of all, they said, here's the rules. You are not allowed to do insider trading. And then they gave it an insider tip. And it didn't do any insider trading. But then they added stress to it. They explained to it how important it was to the manager that we make money on trades. And they gave it 3 conditions to really lay down the stress on it, and it broke the rule. It said, you know, it made insider trading. And then when it was queried 3 different times, it came up with 3 different things. One of them was it flat out lied, I didn't do it, or I didn't have insider information. And one of the times it didn't bother to answer, it completely obfuscated and answered something that wasn't asked. Bottom line, strategically deceptive answers to flat out lies. So AI has something of a way to go if we want it to be an ethical performer. At CES, actually the day before CES, Wi-Fi 11 was officially released. Everybody knows it's coming. It's not a big surprise, but here comes Wi-Fi 7. It's 802.11be. So we move past AX, we're into BE. What's it bring to the table? Fast. 3 times faster than Wi-Fi 6, which peaks at about 9.6, ready? Gigabits per second. It's got 320 megahertz wide channels compared to a max width of about half that on Wi-Fi 6, 160 megahertz. It runs on 3 different bands. And here's the really amazing thing. This is how they accomplish all this speed. They use all the bands simultaneously. A little bit coming off of here while some of it's coming off here, while some of it's coming off here. And they have changed the modulation so that for a given, let's say, use the word pulse, it can transmit 4 times as much data as that same kind of pulse in Wi-Fi 6. So it's big, it's fast. I saw no data on changes in distance, and I don't expect to. See, that's slide 3 out of 5. Number 4. So I mentioned this last week. Broadcom, who makes ARM chips, other people do too, they're a fabricator, they bought VMware. They blew everybody's socks off 2 days ago, maybe it was yesterday. But VMware works with partners, sales partners, VARs, value-added resellers, and so they sell through those things. They also have direct customers. They took the top 2,000 customers from their partners and brought them in-house as direct customers, leaving those VARs and partners high and dry and without a major income source. Blowback, not surprisingly, is enormous. The backlash is great. There are holy wars taking place. It's a real nightmare. NASA. I'm going to do 2 sentences on this because this I could rant for 20 hours on this. NASA has pushed back the Artemis human lunar mission again. Earliest date sometime 2026. We want it to be the safest thing that we can do. Folks, I do not believe that NASA wants to go back to the moon. That's the first time I've ever shared that thought with you. I have believed that for a decade and a half. And yet they continue to pump money into the hands of contractors that are close corporate and personal relatives and relationships with NASA. Frankly, I'm furious. All right. Again, I could go for many days and hours on that. I will not. Coffee. I don't drink that much coffee, so I don't think I'm going to hurt the industry here. But in scientific breakthroughs, there's about 3 ingredients, and then there's some other ones, trace, that make a difference in making concrete. Of course, the biggest one is sand. Sand comes from waterways, in riverbeds, on banks and shores and things like that. And, you know, there are so many different kinds of sands out there. As some of you know, I worked in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years. That place is sandy, to say the least. The sand there can't be used in concrete. They have to bring in sand from other countries. We've seen barges and big freighters full of sand just so they can make concrete and continue to develop. Well, here is an additive to reduce the amount of sand and possibly a complete replacement. Coffee grounds. Now, you can't just take your old coffee grounds and sprinkle it in. It's got to be heated out of the presence of oxygen, which makes basically charcoal, in a process called pyrolyzing. And the resulting carbon molecules, it's attached to the other molecules that make up the rest of concrete, and it makes it much stronger than sand-based concrete. There's a lot of testing to do yet. They've already done a lot of different temperature roasting to discover that if you roast it at 350 C, it generates much better charcoal for the purpose than if you roast it at 500 C. Now they've got to test the concrete for in all the harsh conditions that it can be, and temperature and moisture and abrasive and stress and all that. Coffee grounds are cool. Years ago, this is always kind of stuck in my mind. There's an inventor type, an idea guy, and I do this now too because of this thing I read about him. He keeps a notebook in his pocket all the time. I don't, because I live in a whole new century, but I have a notebook here that I put in daily ideas, things I want to do, things I want to work on later or in soon, whatever. And in his notebook once, he put down a note that said coffee grounds have higher thermobaric caloric value than charcoal or wood. And that sat in his notebook for years. And then one day he's looking through his notebook for ideas, and he said, I ought to do something with this. And so he started collecting some coffee grounds from Starbucks type places and restaurants and whatever, and finding ways to pack it into logs, basically a little bit of wax, kind of like those wax logs. And he created Java logs and made a mint. So, coffee grounds, good for you. And that is tech news of the week. Oh, I got another slide coming up here in personal. But let's go back to the show here, see what's going on. You are a creature of heaven. We covered that. Okay, so they really went to the moon. Surfing television the other day, and Capricorn 1 was on. It doesn't hold up very well, but I would have watched it, but I couldn't. I couldn't because of one of the actors in there. I just said, if I'm watching this, there's probably a chance that he gets a nickel, and I can't do that. Yep, it was all staged. Capricorn 1. There was only one JFK shooter. There was something new about that the other day. It's always the same old recycled stuff, of course. Okay, personal stuff. So, I have a project that I started shortly after I left my former employee. It's entrepreneurial, and at the same time, it is charitable. And it is taking up a lot of my time. I am nearing the end of one of the phases of it. And one of the things that I need, that when I interact with a vendor and I have a positive experience, I share it with you. And when I interact with a vendor, one that you may be involved with sometime or may have some bearing on the life of a watcher, I will share that too. I don't tell you what happened when I went to the grocery store today, unless something really fun happened. So you guys know about this, a little bright. Can I get any light on that? This was the Lego thing that I won in a raffle on LinkedIn. And I don't know, a week and a half ago or so, a week ago, I got to thinking, I haven't seen this thing. And I kicked off a note to the guys. I said, I don't care if I get this thing or not. It's a nice little trinket and it's wonderful. But I just wanted you to know that I didn't get it. And they wrote back seconds later and said, it was you. We sent 2 to one person and none to another person. You are the other person. Stand by. And so there it is. I haven't built a Lego, watching this on Archive, are you, Andre, since I was probably 9. So I'm going to build it. And I'm going to find a place on the set. The new set is pretty much ready, except I'm warehousing it with this new project. Anyways, so new project. I need a packing case for it to get shipped to recipients. And I was going to use one from a supplier that my old company used. The company called Vaults with a Z, not Zipa. And they make things like this, all kinds of different sizes, and some with locks and some with 2 latches and whatever. And so I opened a dialogue with them with an email, their sales and their customer service department. And I got 2 emails back from them. The first email said, acknowledge receipt of the first email you sent. I said, great. And then they said, we have some questions for you based on the email you sent us. Please answer these questions and we'll move forward. So I sent them an email minutes later with an answer to their questions. I started my first email with them on December 20th. After those 2 emails, days would go by and I would send them, hey, where we at? Hey, just checking on you. 7 emails and they have not bothered to respond. And I sent them one today. It said, look, I like your product. I've used them before, but with the quantity of these things that I anticipate purchasing, sooner or later, something is bound to go wrong. And I got to be able to come to customer service and get a resolution. And the fact that you have ignored me for 7 emails tells me that I can't use you. I'm going to have to use. So I selected another supplier. I called them today, and we are good to go. It's happening. By the way, something has happened in another arena that many of us share here on the live channel. There was an organization out there that creates practice tests, and the sources of their question are questionable. They may not be legal. I still hang in many of the areas that talk about these things and, ask technical questions, and I answer them or ask some of my own or whatever. And somebody said, hey, I can't get into this particular site anymore a few days ago. I tried. It seems like you're not the only one. I've been watching that and following it and tracking it for days. By the way, I don't care. They're gone. Exam Compass. It's examcompass.com. They have utterly vanished off the face of the earth. And my first thought was, took the money and run. But I have been thinking about it more and more. Their DNS records happened to expire a couple of days prior to their disappearance. So I attributed it to, okay, they got sloppy, they missed something, or it was always their intent to bail when it was done and take the money and run. I am now wondering if this was part of a deal to keep from being prosecuted, perhaps, to say, look, when your DNS expires, don't re-up it and we'll let bygones be bygones. I don't know, but Exam Compass is gone unless they mysteriously reappear. And, it's something they could have done for $20. Get a new certificate and re-up the domain, and at least they'd have a website even if there's nothing on it. So they're gone. All right, how are we doing here? Oh, 32. That's good. That's a wonderful time. Checking my notes. Does canceled only have one L in it? Yeah, my spill chucker thinks so. What We Do in the Shadows made 5 seasons. They're going to do one more, season 6, and then they are canceled. And because of the actors' strike and the writers' strike, it doesn't seem like it's going to get released until end of 2025. And that takes me to Project. Let me take one last look here, see if anybody's got anything cool to add on. FBI casually enters the chat. You betcha, yeah, sure. So we're going to talk about Pimox. I only got a couple of slides. And yeah, I think there's 1 or 2 in the whole thing. It's all going to be demo and hands-on. Let me share with you right off the bat a link that got me started here. And it quickly falls apart. But it's a place to get a start, and you'll be able to hear what I did. So there's this joint over at RaspberryPiTips.com called Proxmox on a Raspberry Pi. Makes sense. The guy writes it up. He writes in a way that looks very easy until you start doing it, and the very first step fails. I looked around for more things. It is aging out. The last real work at GitHub was done in 2022. So I don't know what the status is and if it's going to get any further development or what. But what is there does work on current Raspberry Pi. And I didn't do it on the 5 because I'm not willing to risk the time that it was going to take, especially today, since I had so little time to do this, on the new bookworm version of Raspberry Pi OS. But I will get us through that and tell you what's there, tell you what didn't work and why it didn't work and what we can do about it. So Pimox is designed to run on x86 hardware and some other platforms, but not ARM hardware. And particularly, it's not designed, Proxmox, not Pimox, is not designed to run on any of the known SBCs, such as Raspberry Pi. So again, there are these wonderful volunteer devs out there who've taken the project on their own. All of the software at Proxmox is open source. So they took it and they ported it to run on Raspberry Pi, and that's cool. There are several virtual machine platforms that'll run on Raspberry Pi. VMware has one. Who knows? We don't know where Broadcom's going to take them, and if they'll continue supporting it. But they've got they have a couple different products out there. There is Qemu, QEMU. There is another one. But this is the one we've decided to experiment with today, because most of the other ones are 100% command line. Now, the installation here is 100% command line, but they have a graphical interface like stuff you're used to, perhaps Hyper-V, very graphical, but 100% Windows/x86 based. VirtualBox, lovely graphical interface on that one. And they have a command line interface as well. But so this is the best of both worlds that I could find that would work on a Raspberry Pi and that I could slam together in 5 hours. So we're going to put Pimox on a Raspberry Pi. Next week we'll install a VM into it. So requirements, what do you need? You got to have an RPi running a 64-bit OS. And for Pimox that's out there now, there's only 2 OSs that'll run on: Debian for Raspberry Pi and Raspberry Pi OS. I just dropped something. It'll live. Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit version, which by amazing coincidence happens to be that version that I've been doing demos on for the last couple of weeks. It's the version where we did the Brave browser, and that's the only thing I've got on there besides Pi apps. I updated it today, so it's ready to rock and roll and do the install. The tutorial that I gave you describes the process as a 4-step process. Roughly true. Call it 4.5, and one of them, the half, doesn't really exist anymore. It's been, let's call it, fixed. I'm going to put another link in the chat feed. This is the natural link to the most current GitHub to do this. And they've made some changes, including a good set of instructions that if you speak any little bit of Linux, you can probably follow. Basically, it's what I'm going to be doing here today. So you can see what I do and then follow their README. And they give you 2 ways to do the installation yourself. One is through a script, which is how we're going to do it. The other, they give you the manual, 7 steps. You got to do this, and then you got to do this, and then you twist this, and you turn that, and you stand on your head this way. You can do it. It's not a big deal. But I like the script version. It's theoretically quick and painless. At least it's painless. It is not quick. But the manual method is even less quick. All right. So I'm going to run you through 3 of the 4 steps. First things first, let me get Putty shared. And I'll stick my head in there. All right, so first things first, let's check and see if we are running a 64-bit version. We're going to say cat space whack proc whack version. And what we're looking for here is this AArch64. So if you see that, you are running 64-bit version of an operating system on a Raspberry Pi. So our tutorial describes the script or the process as 4 steps. 1, install a compatible OS. That's done. I got Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit version running. Then update it with apt. Okay, you can do it with apt. It's an older tutorial, and so if you're using more current versions of Raspberry Pi OS, you can use the graphical update icon. But this will just take a second, so I'll waste our time and do this here. Sudo apt update. I could hit the enter key here and wait till the update's done, and then type in sudo apt -y upgrade. But I'll just link the two together with that double ampersand, and we'll do an update and an upgrade. I did this a couple hours ago, so unless they've done some new release, this should have been pretty quick, and it is. All done. All right, step next is to download the Pimox installation script and edit it. Well, good news. We don't have to edit it anymore, and I'll show you what's there and why, but we're going to download it, and then I'll show you what's there, and then I'm going to show you how it fails, because it's just awful. So here is the command that they tell us to run in that tutorial. We're going to curl, which means go get from a website, this file. It's in this path, and it's called rpios64-ia blah blah blah, and send it to a new file called rpioa blah blah blah.sh. Okay, hit the enter key on there, and let's see what we got. It is this white one here. And when I did this earlier and I tested, I went to look into it. I said cat rpi blah blah blah.sh. And all I got was a 404 unreachable message error. So I said, well, there's something wrong there, and I went and explored the GitHub and found out the right path and the right thing and downloaded it. Well, you can see I did download something here, but what I downloaded is not what I'm supposed to have. So that's no good. So what I did is I blanked the file. This had 0 bytes in it. Can I get in there and actually do that? Nano rpi.sh. This is everything that you saw there, and it's all on one line. There's no hard returns. So I'll just get rid of that, and I'll save this. Control X. This is now a blank file, and it's been saved. Then I went to the GitHub where I just gave you the link for, and I manually copied the contents of that file out and pasted them into here. And then what I did is I renamed it and saved this, so I won't have to go through all that happy stuff again. So let me get rid of this blanked out file that I just made, and we'll do a little bit of pretending here. So remove rpios.sh. And now the white one's gone. This green one is where I copied it into. Let's cat it and see what it looks like. All right, that looks much better. There's 290 nice, neat, clean lines here. So I'm going to rename that to what it should have been. And that's what you're supposed to have after you run that curl command. With one exception, it would not be green, because the next step that they tell us to do is to edit it and then to make it executable. So I've already made this executable. Let's take a look at that. So here it is. You see it says RWX, R blank X, R blank X. So I can execute this thing. My primary group can execute it, and anybody can execute this. And I'll show you how to do that. It's already been done. So then the instruction in the tutorial says, let's go in and edit this thing. And what they want us to do is, it's generic. It doesn't know the IP address of the people who are installing this on their system. It doesn't know their default gateways. It doesn't know the names of their server. And so they put those in the original installation script as blanks, and you had to go in and edit them. But they've changed the script around, so it now looks something like this. Nano RPi. And I'm going to do a search on hostname. And there it is. So we got a line here that says get user inputs hostname. In the old script, it said hostname space blank, and you had to type in the name of some host you were going to do. And then down here, it would say you can't use DHCP on this installation. You must use a static IP address. And so there was a line in here that said IP equals, and you would type in what you want it to be. And likewise for net mask, you'd put in a subnet mask. But all of that's been changed with this script, and you can see it's going to prompt people for the appropriate stuff. So you no longer have to do step 3.5. Step 1, install an operating system. Step 2, update it. Step 3, copy the script down from GitHub. That doesn't work the way the tutorial wrote it because it's out of date. So we fixed that and got the right one. And step 3.5, edit it. No longer necessary. The current script is pretty cool. Now, the final 2 steps to start the installation. There is a very specific warning in there. Can I go back and see that? There. This script is meant to be run as real root, not as pi with sudo. So we can't sudo run this thing. So we got to log in as real root. And the way we're going to do that, and this is in the tutorial and they got it right, is to simply say sudo -s. Sudo. There we go. So I am logged in as root right now. The next step, we haven't done that here for real, is to, I don't have to do sudo because I am root, is chmod the thing to make it executable. It already is, but we'll go through the exercise. Chmod +x, and then the name of the file. Okay, you did it. There was no errors. And since I'm in as root using sudo s, it doesn't color code it. So we've got to look here and see, yep, x, x, x. We're good to go. We're done. We are now ready to complete the installation. All you have to do, let's go look at one other thing here. Let's nano it, nano. Look at this first line. It's got a pound, which normally means don't do this. It's a comment. But this is special when we're talking about script files. And we have a shebang here. We talked about shebang years ago back in drama days. So it's got a shebang that says bang bin bash. That means this is a bash script. Use the bash interpreter to run it. Okay, we'll do that. Control X. To do that, the easiest way is to simply say .whack and type in the name of that shell script and hit the enter key. I'm not going to hit the enter key here. It's going to cause too much of a load on my system, and I don't want all the traffic to impact what I'm trying to do here with the show. But hit the enter key there, and in theory, it's walk away. I have done this, and I have walked away and come back in 40 minutes, and it's done. But I imagine that there are other systems, if you don't do a fresh install, that it might say stop somewhere in the process and say, answer this question, yes, no, continue. Do you want to really continue? So I would check on this every 5 or 10 minutes for the next half hour, 40 minutes, and answer any of those questions with the defaults, whatever they suggest we offer. And when it's all done, there's one other thing that I would do. I would reboot it. It's a very sophisticated installation. But when you're done, you've got Pimox installed, and you will be able to install your virtual machines in it. Now, we're going to do that next week, but I do want to remind you of something. When we install a virtual machine on a computer that's a particular architecture, the operating system that is that virtual machine has to be able to run on that computer. If you run an Oracle box on a Windows machine, then, or on an Intel machine rather, and you want to install Ubuntu, it's got to be Ubuntu for Intel machines or AMDs or whatever. So when we put in our operating system into Pimox next week, it's got to be an operating system that could run on bare metal Raspberry Pi. There is no emulator in here. It's not a, well, that's it. It's not an emulator. It's not WinRE or Wine or any of that stuff. So we looked at 5 or 6 weeks ago, Alpine. It's a very small operating system. So that's the one I'm thinking about installing. It's got some really good benefits to it. And I had some notes. I had a thought about this that I wanted to share. Small good candidate. Oh yeah, so let's think about this for just a second. If you're going to make a virtual machine, what do you have to do? You have to make a virtual hard drive. You have to set up a virtualized network interface card. All the things that you have to do on a real machine. And of course, Pimox is going to give us an interface, a graphical interface to do that. You could also do this all on the command line if you're crazy. So that's it. It's really simple. The bottom line is there's one change that you have to make from that guy's tutorial, and this will fix everything. You've got to change the path and file name to his, let me get rid of this, that he used. Exit. There we go. And I've got that Raspberry Pi tips. Let me try this. We're in good shape on time. I finished the thing. It's Raspberry Pi tips. I know you can't see this. .com/Proxmox -on -Raspberry -Pi. Well, I totally typoed that. Let me try it this way. I got a second. Proxmox on Raspberry Pi. We'll let the search engine find it here. Getting started with Proxmox. There it is. And then we share. I got a browser share page. Brave browser window. Well, we got burnt by this a couple of weeks ago. Same burn job. Something has happened to OBS. Let me try their browser page and see what it does. Image slides, image project, Wireshark, command, sandbox, real, Elgato. I got Elgato working. Putty. Nah, he's not going for it. Oh, well. Anyways, all you got to do is you'll find it on his page where he says curl and then a big path. What you want to do is, he documents this correctly in his site, is go to the GitHub page. I put that up here as well, so it's in the slideshow. Let me post it again here. Control F. GitHub. There we go. So go to the GitHub page that I am just now putting in the chat feed, and you will see that shell file in there. All you got to do is right click on it and copy the path, and then replace the path that our erstwhile tutorial writer used with this new path, and everything should work like a gem. If it doesn't, if it does to you what it did with me tonight, gave you that one big long liner, just click on that shell and do a mark all, Control A, Control C to copy it, and then go in and edit your Raspberry Pi file contents with that. And everything will work. I know it all sounds very complicated. If you really want to do this, I have not posted my notes for all these step-by-steps, but I've got them all since show number 1. But just kick me off a note. You know how to reach me, and I'll repost those 2 things just because it's fun. And I'll give you individually my notes, because I just like you guys. That's how it goes. Get rid of that. Email addresses. All right, well, let's get see who did what while we were chatting, and then we will wind things up for the night. Did that, did that, did that. Take that over to this part. Okay. Oops. Okay, that finishes. It takes me to where I should be. Excuse me. So nobody said anything whilst I was doing all that. It was all me piping and posting. And Patricia says, "Thank you for going through this and helping us get to the weekend, through the weeds." Yeah, it's like I said, it's very, very simple. Start with what that guy did, and I will have very clean notes available for you to do next week. You know what? I got away. I was on somebody's site today that he was doing a very complicated a demonstration of something very complicated, and he saved all his notes to some website somewhere, and he put links to those websites in his YouTube show description. I think that's a good thing to steal. All right, you guys had enough of this nonsense? We are pretty much, I still got another 2 minutes to go. Huzzah. No Scott tonight. Missing you, Scott. I will go over to Scott's house in the next 3 days because I got stuff to work with him. And I'm going over to Kathy's in the next 3 days. So a little bit about this project. I am creating a tool to help students in underserved environments, schools with no money, basically, on how to gain IT tech skills. It's this really, really cool kit. It doesn't conflict with anything my old employer did, so it has no problem with non-compete or anything like that. Somebody's probably going to bat an eye, but our legal people will say, no, we're more than good to go. So it's going to be fun. I have all but 2 pieces to complete the first 5 kits. I'm waiting on mounts. I ordered them today. They'll be in a couple of days. And some packing material. And I've got a meeting with the packing material guy tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You're going to love this. You guys are going to love this. And I'm going to need help identifying recipients and making contacts in the areas that you guys are in. So I will be reaching out to those of you that I know, and those of you who want to help out and we haven't met yet, you got my email address. Write me. This is going to be a great thing for students. You want to help the world of IT gain. They're not shorthanded right now, but they will be. This is cyclical, and it would be great if these kids were ready to step into jobs when that cycle turns, huh? Yeah, it's good stuff. We are Scotless. Something Scotland can't say. I found a new thing that keeps me up at night. Is it burn ointment? Online crossword puzzles. Okay. I'm so pleased to hear it. Here, let me do something for just a second. Oops, I can't do that. I gotta stick something up here. Oh, I just closed that. Okay, I can do this. I know, you've seen this. Do I have any slows after this? Yeah, there's one more slide after this. So let's go to the final slide, whatever it is. Oh yeah, that was to start the project. So we're all done with that. All right, back to Cam then. All right, guys. Well, it has been fun as always. You know what? I was thinking about it the other day. I don't thank you guys enough. Thank you. Again, this was just me talking to myself. And I know there's just this, handful of us, 4, 5, 6, 7 sometimes during the live show. I really got to reconsider how I'm doing it, where I'm doing it, what time I'm doing it. But our pickup as the week and weeks go on is reasonable. So I will keep doing this. But for you guys who are crazy enough and loyal enough and helpful enough in so many ways that you are, I cannot begin to thank you enough. All right. What do we got coming up here? Plans. Hopefully I get the Windows firewall next week. Got to talk to Jason. I will talk with you either Friday night or Monday. Monday, by the way, MLK Day. Also have on the near-term calendar adding a desktop to a Linux server that is a server. It doesn't have a graphical environment, so we're going to add one to that. That's one of the things that my old boss used to talk to his audience about. He said, Windows is Windows and you can't change it. I'm paraphrasing. This is the interface. This is the desktop you get. It's whatever Microsoft said. And he would always point out that Linux isn't like that. You don't like this top? There's 5 other desktops to select from. And he's right. And so I want to demonstrate how to do that, how to change from no desktop to a desktop. And then the process, I'll talk about how to change from this desktop to that desktop. And I'll give you the key here. The key is to uninstall the desktop that you have, so you're stuck with just pure command line, and then you install a shiny new desktop. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. So we are going to vine things up. Let me see if there's anything else that anybody posted at the very bitter end. Oh, here it all comes. Online crossword puzzles. Does Dave want to anointed as a tech guru in that other place? I have real mixed emotions about that. Let's talk about that in the secret off caverns of the cavernous place. I shouldn't. And you guys are doing such a fine job. I don't need to. Its only benefit is if I double click something. I keep booting myself. Oh, I have to tell you this. I'm going to run a minute late. My mouse gets filthy. My mouth gets filthy. Oh my gosh, it gets filthy. And so about every 6 months, I clean it out. And so yesterday was the big clean out day. It was time because I was having tough times getting successful clicks out of it. So I pop the batteries out, I take the screw out, I disassemble it, I hose it off with various chemistry and air and knives and weapons, and I go to put it back together and it moves just fine and neither click works. And I wound up, because I poked something down into one of these switch circuits, they both got stuck down there, and it took me about an hour, to get those unstuck. But that's what happens sometimes is when they get filthy like that, you press it once and it double clicks so fast that you wind up double pumping things. And yeah, I have an idea about that. We'll talk about that in the cave. All right, closing things down here. It's time. How do I do that? I click this button and then I click this button and I'd say what I say to you every week with one new thing added this week. I wish you a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday and on the other platforms that I'm on. Until then, remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, op, ork, ah. Here we go. Looks like it's doing its thing.